So let's start, as we said, at Villa Park, because big game for your team of Newcastle, of course, going away to Villa in what looked like for the Champions League qualification, a bit of a 6-pointer.
Yeah.
What did you make of the game?
Villa were by far the better side. I thought the bench probably swayed it when you look at the first 11s, and both 11s were very, very strong. Villa had a far superior bench than Newcastle. Maybe a little bit of tiredness crept in. I think from a Newcastle point of view, that's the 7th time in a row they've kept the same side. Understandably, when you've won, 5 in a row, it's one of them where you think, why change your winning side? But maybe Jason Tindall or Eddie Howe, maybe, and it's all right in hindsight, maybe tweak something after the Palace win. But then again, you win 5-0 against Palace. Why do you think you have to change it with Villa? So I think hindsight's a wonderful thing. But what I would say, as you said, the Champions League race is hotting up. I mean, all the teams vying for the top 5 are all in the race.
It felt quite even in the first half. It was 1.5 time. The second half, though, Villa blew them away. They had played in midweek in the Champions League, of course, against PSG, where they came close to make almost history. That momentum seems to have carried on from the Tuesday to the Saturday. We saw a very good Ollie Watkins, who was back as a starter. He did well. We'll talk a bit later about his comments and him not being happy to miss out a bit on the Champions League. We saw, you're right, the substitution or the changes that Unai Emery made having an impact, like Maatsen at left back again.
Daniel Malen came on.
Yeah, Villa on a run. They're on a really, really good. I know they lost to PSG and they have the FA Cup at the weekend, but they're on a good run in the league.
Yeah, they're riding it, aren't they? They're riding the performance against PSG, but they're riding the form that they've been on the Premier League. They're finishing strong. My only hope as a Newcastle fan is if you fast forward to midweek, they play Man City on Tuesday. So as a Newcastle fan, 5 wins on the spin's been great, bang in form, maybe a little bit jaded going into that game, but they play Ipswich next week and Newcastle. So the chances are, and the theory is, as a Newcastle fan, forget that game, forget the Villa game, go and beat Ipswich. Hope that Man City beats Aston Villa on Tuesday. It then puts Newcastle in a great position. I believe maybe 2 wins and a draw might secure Newcastle top 5. But Villa are just riding the form that they've been in, the job that Unai Emery's done. Monchi's brought some very good players in after losing 1 or 2 as well. So they're in a fantastic position. And if you're a Villa fan, you can feel proud, but you can feel excited the way they give PSG a game, because they're probably the outstanding team left in the Champions League. I think you could stick a pin in any one of the 4. They're all fantastic sides. But in terms of what Villa done against Newcastle, really, in truth, they blew them away. I thought they were far superior.
And we said Ollie Watkins scored very early on, had a really good game. Came after the game and said, listen, I was not happy. To only play. So he said he only played 20 minutes in the first leg and 20 minutes in the second leg or something like that, but not starting. Rashford started ahead of him, and say how angry he was and that he was disappointed.
I don't mind that, you. I don't mind it.
I think you should. I think you should express your feelings anyway. But you can understand why. It could have been Watkins' biggest game of his career, well, I guess, with the Euros final and semi-final, etc. But at club level, he might never play another Champions League quarter-final in his career. He's 29 years old. So
I think it's one of them from a player's point of view. I think he was well within his rights to say what he said, as long as he says that to Unai Emery. As long as he's had that conversation, which I'm pretty sure he's had. And then you express that to the manager, well, listen, Gaffer, I'm not happy. Understand that you've got a squad with Asensio and Rashford that are trying to push you. And it's Unai Emery's big decision to play what he thinks is his best players for any particular game. But I quite like that from Ollie Watkins. I don't mind that bit of spikiness where he's coming out and he's not happy. Do you want to play that's just happy sitting on the bench? I quite like it.
Have you seen some players? So you can either react, there's only 2 ways. One, you respond with a massive game, massive performance like this one. Or you just think, you know what, I've had enough of this. And you kind of lose desire and motivation.
Good pros don't do that. Good professionals, they respond in the right way. I've been there throughout my career, not at that level where you're getting dropped for a Champions League game, but when you get dropped for a big Premier League game, the ego in you is devastated because you want to play if you go into Anfield or Old Trafford or wherever you play in the Emirates, Highbury back in the day. You want to play in the big games, but when you've been dropped, it hurts you for an hour. And then sometimes you can carry that on. If on a Friday, we used to get told on a Friday, I was a nightmare when we got told. Proper miserable, honestly. So emotional. I remember so many times at Chad Relief, if I was dropped for a big game the day after, we get told on Friday mornings, I was useless in training for the first half an hour because I was so mopey and I was so moody because I knew I wasn't playing the next day, which is like understandable. But then your professional head gets put on, and then you go, actually, there's some young boys taking my place, or I've got to respect Teddy Sheringham or whoever might be playing. And then your head kicks in. By the next day, the Saturday, your head's then back on.
Yeah.
And then you want the team to do well. But for that hour in training on a Friday, I was useless. So emotional, man.
Right, before we go back to Villa and the squad and the depth in the squad, which we touched upon a little bit earlier, I just wanted to ask you about Jason Tindall and the absence of Eddie Howe. And you as a former player, I don't know if you've been there before when you're manager. Have you?
Yeah.
So before you tell us about your own experience, is it a problem? Is it not a problem? Could it be a problem if it lasts too long? Does it matter? Is it all about who is the assistant taking over in a way? And if he's almost like a number one in the making, like how do you assess that situation right now?
I think in the short term, I think it hasn't been a problem, but now I think to the end of the season, it might be a problem because Jason Tindall, even in his interviews, he said he's not comfortable, doesn't want to be a number one, says he feels uncomfortable leading the side, doesn't want to do press conferences, doesn't feel as though that's his thing. He's a coach that likes to be on the grass coaching players and putting sessions on. So in the short term, it might be a problem. I think he'll be in dialogue and conversation with Eddie Howe in terms of who's picking the side, and substitutes might be a problem. That's the area where you think Jason Tindall's got to handle alongside the coaching staff at Newcastle, because I wouldn't imagine in-game that Eddie Howe will have a say on what subs come on. I wouldn't have thought if he's sitting resting up, I wouldn't have thought he's in dialogue via text or WhatsApp or whatever,
maybe not,
trying to influence Jason Tindall. So that's something that's brand new. So it's going to be very interesting,
Because you know where I thought about it at halftime of this. So this game, we said halftime is 1-1. It's still being the balance. Villa is still the better team in the first half, but it's evenish, let's say.
Yeah.
And Villa come out the second half after obviously having Unai Emery doing the team talk at halftime.
Yeah.
All guns blazing. They destroy Newcastle in that second half. There's not even there's no match even. And on the other hand, I see Newcastle and I don't know what Tindall said at halftime. But it felt like they were a bit flat coming out of that dressing room. And then that's where I wondered, I'll ask you the question to see if, like you said, maybe he's not even comfortable for those kind of halftime team talks. And against Palace, you're 3-0 up at halftime. There's no team talk to have. It's easy. Even against United, it's 1-1, you are home.
Knew you were going to win.
Yeah, you knew they were going to win. Exactly. Inevitable. So this one was maybe the first time where he was in that situation where, okay, well, what do I say or what do I do now? And I just wondered how he handled that. But obviously we were not there. We don't know.
Well, I was at West Ham when Glenn Roeder got unwell, and he had to step away, and then Trevor Brooking took over. So that was an uncomfortable period that I can try and lean on what it's like when your manager goes away. And
so how was it?
It was difficult because you feel for your manager that's in hospital, and Glenn Roeder's a super nice guy. But really, in truth, when you look at the form that we had under Trevor Brooking, it was like we were in the bottom three and we ended up going down on the last day of the season. But it was like top four form.
Really?
Like we hit form. It was nothing to do with the manager. I think maybe we were playing for Glenn, but maybe subconsciously, maybe it was something different that Trevor Brooking was saying to the players or the team selection. Team selection is the interesting one because, as you rightly say, the difference between Villa and Newcastle, when you look at how the game unfolded, from minute one, really, when Villa come out the traps flying and got the early goal, and then I feared for Newcastle. But Newcastle then got it back to a draw. But towards the end of the game, they looked stronger, Villa. The bench was strong. Barkley came on, Rashford, Marlon all came on. Newcastle had to turn to Matt Targett, Emil Kraft, Callum Wilson came on.
Is that the difference, you think?
That is the difference.
Yeah.
And to be honest, Jules, that's the difference from a Newcastle point of view for the last 18 months. I hate PSR chat, but it's relative, and it's something that Newcastle are going to try and live with. But sold Minte to Brighton and Elliot Anderson to Forest, and it's hurting Newcastle because the squad depth is not there. So for Newcastle to be riding where they are and win the Carabao Cup, fighting for a Champions League spot, sitting in third as we speak, with a limited squad of probably 13, 14 players.
I was going to say 15 max.
Max, it's a remarkable job that they've done. But now I think it's getting to a point, if they are going to kick on, they're going to have to spend big time because that bench that came on was nowhere near Villa's bench.
I completely agree with you. Do you expect a big summer? I mean, can they do a big summer even in terms of transfer? I mean, I guess if you qualify for Champions League and you know that money is guaranteed 50, 60 million, whatever it is, that will help. But do you think financially they can?
I think they can because I think they're in a good place after selling a couple of homegrown players. There might be one or two more. Longstaff's maybe rumoured to be leaving as well. He's a homegrown player.
And he deserves to play. Maybe he's a Premier League player. So
and Lewis Miley as well.
Yeah,
Miley, I'd hate to see two local lads leave. I mean, one might leave. I don't think it should be Lewis Miley because he's a young boy trying to find his way into the team. Longstaff is a good player and a good substitute, but they might think he's surplus to requirements in terms of bringing that homegrown money in. But Newcastle have to strengthen. The first one they've got to do is make sure they keep Isak.
Yeah.
They can't allow him to go to Barca, Liverpool, whoever's going to come in for him. So that's the main one. Get him signed on a new deal.
What about Bruno and Tonali?
Same. I mean, I don't know how you feel, but I always think this is a fascinating time of the year when you try to pick player of the year.
Yeah.
For any team, whether it's PSG, you'll struggle picking a player of the year because they've all been amazing.
Yeah.
I look at Newcastle and it's Isak, but there's a large part of me thinks it's Sandro Tonali.
Yeah, I agree.
I think he's amazing. I think he's one of the best midfield players in the country.
Yeah, he will be in my top 11 for the season.
And I stand by it. I had this discussion and debate with Stevie Nicol on ESPN about the cup final. I said Newcastle got a better midfield than Liverpool. And he was like, I'm not sure Liverpool. I was like, no, I think Newcastle.
I remember.
I think that they all complement each other. The three of them are fantastic. So, yeah, again, I mean, it's keeping Bruno, it's keeping Tonali, it's keeping Isak, it's keeping Gordon, it's adding to what Newcastle need, whether it's competition for the first 11, which knocks then one or two players down to the bench, which I always think is the best way to go. Yeah. I'm never really a fan of buying substitutes because even though it heightens your sort of depth on the bench, but does it strengthen the team when they actually come on?
Yeah, that's true.
I always think you're better off trying to buy first team players.
Yeah.
So I think that's what Newcastle need. They need more numbers for sure. They need more quality if it's coming off the bench. And Villa's the best example. Anytime they can bring Rashford on, or Onana on, or Asensio on, I mean, that's the difference.
That makes a massive difference.
And
especially if Newcastle then qualify for the Champions League. As
exactly.
you said, I mean, they already are in Europe through the Carabao Cup, but if there's Champions League as well, plus all those games.
And Isak can't play every single game.
So Callum Wilson is not.
So whether it's someone like Liam Delap for £30 million, I think it'd be a good signing. I think he'd be a starter for the likes of Man United, be a starter for Everton, might be a squad player for Newcastle. But that's the type of player they need.
Yeah, I agree. You mentioned Isak. It's a 1 goal in 4 now. So he was in great form before. I'm not saying that he's going through the worst drought of his career. It's not. But he missed a few chances against Palace, then scored a lovely, lovely goal.
Yeah.
He was pretty anonymous in this game where it didn't seem to be really in the game ever.
Yeah.
Are you worried that he's played a bit too much, that he's a bit tired? You don't think he's him thinking about the future? And
no, I don't get the sense that he's thinking about the future. I get the sense with Isak, because I say this a little bit loosely, he's quite fragile.
Yeah.
Like, he'll pick up a little groin injury. You might not see him for a couple of weeks. I think that's due to how many games that he's played. Because when he's fit, he's Newcastle's first choice or close to it.
Yeah.
So then you can't afford, there's not many games. Liverpool are a best example where you look at Liverpool and maybe Arne Slot could have rotated some players, but when you're going for a title, you've got to play your strongest 11.
Yeah.
Newcastle are in the same boat. They've got to go from game to game every 4 days, 3 games a week, playing your best 11. Isak's not built for that.
No, that's true.
He's built for taking him out the team for a game, give him a few days rest, put him back in. So I think a little bit of fatigue, but nothing, I don't think, in terms of anything to worry about that he's thinking of Barca or Liverpool or where he might be next. Don't know if you agree.
Just to finish, we said we will discuss the race for the Champions League places in a little bit in the quick hits, but I don't want to put you on the spot right now, but will Newcastle make top 5?
Well, yes is the answer.
Okay.
I mean, I was looking at the supercomputer this morning, the Opto, and they give them like a massive percentage. They say 66 points is the number.
Okay.
So Newcastle are not far away, 7 points away.
Yeah, 7. So you said 2 wins and a draw.
Exactly.
Maybe even 2 wins.
And because of the fixture list elsewhere, they all have got, apart from Man City, difficult games.
Yeah, true.
So there's points going to be dropped. So the answer is yes.
Okay. And what about Aston Villa?
I don't know. I think Forest might dip out. We'll know more tonight. If they go to Tottenham tonight and they beat Tottenham.
We're recording before Forest played.
Yeah, if they go to Tottenham and win tonight, because they've lost the last 2, Forest, if they go there and win, I think it changes everything. If they go there and lose 3 on the spin with the fixtures they've got, they might miss out.
And as we said, there's also a massive Man City Villa on Tuesday night.
Chelsea have got hard fixtures.
Yeah, and Chelsea will play twice.
Yeah.
The team who are there for the fighting for the Champions League. So that's very exciting. We know the title is done. We know the relegation is pretty much done. But for the Champions League places, that's where the suspense is. Right, enough Aston Villa against Newcastle. What about some quick hits, Don?
Let's do it.
Liverpool will have to wait a little bit longer before being champions of England, despite the win at Leicester on Sunday, Don.
Bit squeaky. In terms of, I mean,
missed chances.
Yeah, loads of missed chances, especially early on. I mean, it was written in the stars that Trent was going to the winner. Honestly, it was, because I said it with about 20 minutes to go. I went, Trent's going to come on and score the winner.
Yeah.
Just because
you kind of knew it,
Just because it sort of felt that way. And they did 13 points clear, 14 if you include a better goal difference. So the title's been done for quite a while. I don't get this myth, though, that people say Liverpool have been limping to a title. It's Arsenal that have been limping, in my opinion. 3 wins and 8.
Yeah, no, and also I think
Liverpool have lost one game in 29.
Even if they play 50%, they will still win or at least draw.
But they've lost one game in 29 games.
Why did you make? I think a lot of people made a lot or try to make a lot of Trent celebration and the fact that. I mean, I don't want to spoil anybody's still at home, but he's not staying. He's leaving for sure.
Don't ruin the dream.
People are saying like he would not celebrate like this if he was leaving. No, he's leaving. I don't know. He celebrated maybe because it made him super happy. Maybe because there's been a lot of criticism since we know he's going to leave. But yeah, what did you make of the celebration? I mean, he cares, clearly. It's still about the club and we'll always care.
It's emotional. It's an emotional game, Jules. And when you're a player and you're getting wrapped up in all the emotion of what's been going on over the last 6 months or so, whether that was having contact with Real Madrid and his agents doing all the work, and then you think it's close or it might not be close and you're still negotiating with Liverpool, and then you try and fast forward all that emotion off the field onto the field and you're going for the 20th title and you're going for your second title and you score the winner.
Yeah.
That's going to get Liverpool the title away from home, which is the die-hard fans.
Exactly.
You lose it, Jules. You know, you'd have to be some pro to, what's the word? Not to not care, but to show zero emotion when you just scored the winner.
I agree.
You know, I was never one of these players that could have a celebration, like a routine planned celebration. I should just lose it. Just go for that minute. And I think that's exactly what happened, and he vented a lot of frustration. I didn't really read anything in terms of the shirt being on the corner flag or him.
Yeah, no, me neither. I don't know. Like
maybe he's in his heart of hearts. He might be saying to one of the two Liverpool fans, "Calm down, quieten down," because I've given everything since I've been here as a kid. I don't know. I didn't read anything. Oh, he's definitely staying or he's definitely going.
No, that's sure. But he's going.
Of course he is, because I think you can tell by the interview afterwards. He could have easily said, which in my opinion he should have said when he got asked the question about. I have to ask the question. He should have said, "It's not about me today. It's about those travelling fans." The away fans are the die-hard Liverpool fans, and they would have loved him for saying that. He would have earned a few brownie points.
No, you're right.
I think he was a little bit unwise in what he said afterwards. He could have just said, Liverpool fans are amazing. It's not about me. It's not about my goal. It's all for them. That's what he should have said. Barcelona produced yet another remontada.
Come
Saturday
back.
night against Celta. I mean, what a crazy game.
Crazy game. They were 3-1 down because their high line, I mean, super defensive high line.
Which could cost them in the Champions League.
Could cost them, you're right. They kept being punished on it. And to be fair, Celta could have scored more goals. 3-1 down. And yet they still come back and win 4-3. Okay, maybe the penalty to win it in the 98th minute is a little bit dodge. But Rafinha takes it, scores. That's also what makes you champions, right? I know it's still a 4-point gap because we talk about later, Real Madrid also won. But that's a massive win when you think, okay, maybe they dropped points here, but they didn't. So
I mean, they played an incredible high line. I mean, the third goal, they were in their own half. Sorry, in the opposition half.
And Borja Iglesias is just
ran from his own half.
Yeah, from his own half. It's mad.
Like, there's a high line.
Yeah, I know. This is Ange Postecoglou-esque, to be fair. Don, Leicester are officially relegated, joining Southampton in the Championship next season. They haven't scored in the last 9 Premier League games at home. And surely Ruud van Nistelrooy. I mean, I don't mind the guy, but it has to be one of the worst appointments in Premier League history since he took over. It was worse than Steve Cooper by far.
I mean, Leicester fans wanted Steve Cooper out to start the season because he's Forest connection.
Yeah.
But my word, he would have had a better chance of keeping them in division.
I agree, man.
I mean, how can you go 9 games at home when you haven't scored?
I've
never known it.
Man, 0 goals in 9 games.
I've never ever known it. I mean, he's obviously learning. But I think you can't really fault Ruud van Nistelrooy because he's out of his depth.
Yeah, clearly.
I think what you would do is you'd point the finger to the board and the hierarchy and say, what were you doing appointing him in the first place?
Yeah, I agree.
That's I think what you would.
And even keeping him that long because he had like eight defeats in a row at some point, 9 defeats in a row. I'm like, why is he still there?
I know. Well, I think once you brought him in from the hierarchy, it would look a really weak and bad decision to then say, actually, we made a mistake. We're going to then fire him. That would be a hardcore decision.
Yeah.
But they just find themselves now in a world of trouble.
Would you keep him in the Championship or not?
No.
I don't think I would. He's got 2 more years left on his contract. Why did you give him 2.5 years?
I mean, the only thing you can do is you give him the first half a dozen games to see how he does.
Yeah, see how he does, I guess.
But I've played in that league, Jules. It's a brutal league. It's a brilliant league to play in. It's Saturday, Tuesday. You've got to have players that are durable. You've got to have good characters. He's called 1 or 2 out in terms of their
not happy
characters.
With some of the players,
Vestergaard and Winks. So they either bite the bullet and sack him in the summer or now, and then give someone who knows the Championship a right good go at getting straight back.
Because they have to come back.
Rafa
financially, if they don't.
Rafa done it in Newcastle when he took them down. Plenty of managers have took teams down, good ones, and brought them back.
Yeah.
So it's a big decision.
Massive.
Huge. Back to Barca, despite their win, they also suffered a massive blow. Lewandowski got injured. Yeah,
and that's bad. And he hold his hamstring, as you...
Was it hamstring?
You've been there before, I'm sure.
Well, injuries, but not hammies. I was never that quick.
Oh, really? It's just because you had such a strong upper body that your hamstring never suffered. And when you see him like that, you think, okay, let's hope he's just the start, like a grade 1.
Yeah.
And it looks like 3 weeks. And that's no good. He will miss the cup final at the weekend against Real Madrid on Saturday.
Champions League semi?
For first leg, guaranteed, I think. Second leg, maybe there's a chance. But, I mean, it's not so much that he's been in great form and he's so good for this team because he scores, but also he drops and links everything up. It's also done that they don't really have a proper replacement.
That's what I was going to say. I was going to ask you.
Ferran Torres is the guy, but he's not really number 9. Yeah, different profile, probably more of a wide player. So I guess Dani Olmo can play there, but again, not the same kind of profile than Lewandowski. And I'm not sure. He's been such a big part of this, making this team special, that without him, it won't be the same. Cardiff have sacked their manager Omer Ritza, Don, and they've gone in a surprising way to replace him.
Aaron Ramsey.
I know, man.
I think it's worth a shout, isn't it?
When is the last time we've had a player manager in the Premier League or in the Championship?
Unbelievable question.
Like Ruud Gullit or something like that. Well,
Glenn Hoddle, Kenny Dalglish. I think probably tipping point was when Omer Ritza, who I played with, by the way, at West Ham. He was a very, very young boy coming through the ranks there.
I didn't know this.
He was a centre forward.
Yeah.
He called the fans clueless.
Yeah.
Once you go down that route, there's sort of, and by the way, they're in the bottom 3 looking at the going down.
Yeah.
So hopefully Aaron Ramsey can cut his teeth and hopefully he might have the ears of the dressing room and have the respect of the dressing room.
What you talked about earlier, with...
Trevor Brooking?
Yeah, Glenn Waller, Trevor Brooking. We talked about Tyndall and how. Do you think this could work? A player, player who comes out of, who's your teammate and then suddenly becomes also your boss kind of thing?
Yeah, I think it could. I think because the players will obviously respect Aaron Ramsey for what he's done, respect the player. They've obviously played with him. They'll have been inside the dressing room with him, so they'll understand his character. He's probably not going to go and nail anyone.
Yeah.
That's probably not going to be his style.
Yeah.
So straight away, his probably biggest decision if he's fit is does he play himself or not? That's probably the hardest call for a player manager. But I think sometimes that can be a smart move. I don't think you see it enough. Because players have got the respect, they know the dressing room, they know how to handle teammates, they're with them every single day.
He was a leader, I guess, over there.
If I'm playing with you and you're in my dressing room, I know you like to put an arm around you to get the best out of you, maybe vice versa. So I think from Cardiff's point of view, it might be a bit of a smart move.
Yeah, definitely.
They need something.
And
then sad news on Sunday, Jules, with the passing of legendary goalkeeper Hugo Gatti.
Yeah, the Argentine. Really sad. I mean, he was 80, I think. Boca Junior legend, absolute legend. Won 2 Copa Libertadores, so the Champions League of South America. 3 titles, I think. Played for Argentina. Maybe not as much as he should have because he was an amazing goalkeeper. Maybe like almost a pioneer because he came out of his box.
Oh, really?
Could play, was really good technically. Missed out on the 78 World Cup that Argentina won on home soil too. I think he only had 18 caps. But great character, the hair, the headband, like just the style.
Have you seen a picture? It'll be iconic.
Exactly, so iconic. So really, I mean, we send all our condolences to his family, to all the Boca Juniors fan, of course. Let's have more quick hits done.
Let's do it.
Arsenal destroy Ipswich on Sunday, a game that you've been commentating on as well. Do you think we will see the same Arsenal front 6 against PSG in the Champions League because Partey was on the bench on Sunday? He's suspended for that first leg.
I think so. I would play Declan Rice as a holder midfield player.
But then you lose out on a lot of the things he does, all the running, the energy, going forward, etc.
But I think he's capable of doing that, playing that role for a one-off game. Maybe he's changed it in the second leg if Partey's back, and then Moreno off the left, Ødegaard off the right, close to Saka, Martinelli and Trossard. I think it might be the way to go. But they absolutely destroyed Ipswich. I mean, honestly, I was on comms yesterday for the game, and I'm normally quite placid when I'm commentating on games, Premier League especially, and I couldn't help all game go into Kieran McKenna's tactics.
I know.
Because why on earth would you, and I'm going to digress slightly, but why on earth would you think you're going to be a team that's going to get relegated and think arrogantly, I'll tell you what we're going to do, we're going to try and outplay one of the best football teams in the country. And it was ridiculous.
It was.
2-0 down after half an hour.
Yeah, exactly.
And then down to 10 men. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
So, but they destroyed them. Arsenal were, so comfortable in the game.
They could have scored 5 or 6
and
more.
they didn't even break sweat.
Yeah.
I actually said that. I said Arsenal would put their kit straight back on for the next game.
Yeah.
They didn't even break sweat, so the kit man's got no job. Luis Enrique rotated the PSG team that won on Saturday, Jules, a step closer to invincibility.
Yeah, and I guess, again, for them, preparing for that big Arsenal semi-final ties, loads of the kids, Mayulu, who's 18, Mbaye, who's 17, started that game against Le Havre. At the Parc des Princes, I think even with a full B team, they would have won anyway. But it was
Have
good.
PSG done that before? Been invincible?
No, nobody in
never.
France. Yeah.
Never.
So 4 more games, I think now. 4 or 5 games left. They have one on Tuesday night against Nantes at home, away, sorry. Then they play Nice at home on Friday before the Aston game, the following midweek, obviously. And they believe. I know.
Why wouldn't they?
I know, they should. They've been outstanding. And even when he rotates and even when the kids are playing or the kind of reserve players are playing, it's still working. So good for them. Really good momentum. Chelsea left it really late to win the derby away at Fulham. Did you see enough in their performance to be reassured, Don? Because they've gone through
devastated. It's devastated that
bless
Neto
you.
scored because I want Newcastle to get top 5.
That's why.
Exactly why.
Their first half was horrendous, I thought.
Same in midweek though on Thursday night against Legia.
So bad, yeah, you're right.
So
you're
bad.
Right.
I mean, there was nothing really to grab onto, and I. The only thing I can put it down to is Maresca's a disciple of Guardiola.
Yeah.
But when I've ever looked at Chelsea from the 90s all the way up to modern day football, they've never really been a slow pace, pedestrian, keep ball possession side. Not at the Bridge anyway.
Yeah.
Their DNA to me is up and at 'em. Get stuck in, get man for man, get tight, be aggressive, get the ball forward quickly, rely on some fair players to bring the sort of quality. But especially at the Bridge, you've got to do a little bit more in terms of the intensity because he's starting to lose a little bit with the fans. It's starting to get a little bit toxic. But I tell you what I would say is when you score a last-minute winner that Neto got, and great goal it was, that can build and it can take you. It's almost better scoring a last-minute goal than scoring a goal with half an hour to go.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Sort of adrenaline just feels that little bit more and it's a little bit more heightened. So they can try and take that into the next games and they have to because they've got difficult games.
What's
They're
happening
one
with
of the teams that could drop out if they're not careful.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It's that we said we talked about it a bit later on that race for 3rd, 4th, and 5th. What's happening with Cole Palmer? Can you try to explain to me why he could have been so good for 18 months and then suddenly...
Do you know, I think he's that type of player. I think he's very carefree and what you would do, I think if you're managing Cole Palmer, you wouldn't want to bombard him with tactics.
Yeah,
You just let him play and you go, right,
freedom.
Freedom. Right, you go and figure out where you need to play. We'll get you on the ball as much as possible. I think fullback area has been a problem. So Reece James, I think, came off at half-time yesterday. Gusto came off again, I think, with a hamstring problem.
Yeah.
So many Chelsea fans are thinking, well, at any given time, you can see 3 right-backs or 3 left-backs on the pitch, but not necessarily at different positions. They can all be on the pitch at the same time.
Yeah.
So maybe some of the players are not getting the best, or the manager's not getting the best out of Cole Palmer. Jackson's sort of back new over the last couple of games back into the team, but I can't really make any excuses for them.
No, I
because
agree.
they've got a good team.
Yeah.
So
we've seen them playing well this season.
So that tends. I lean then. It has to be a manager thing.
Yeah.
Whether he wants intensity in training, whether he wants intensity in a game, or he's saying to the players, "No, possession's king. Let's play a slow tempo." But I go back to a Chelsea team over the years that don't really fit that style for me.
No, you're right.
In my opinion.
Yeah.
Kylian Mbappe was suspended against Bilbao. How did they look without him, Jules?
It was a bit of a tricky game because Athletic Club have been so good this season and going to the Bernabeu after the disastrous performance against Arsenal, of course, and all the criticism. I think Carlo Ancelotti is going to leave at the end of the season. I'm not even sure if he will finish the season after the cup final on Saturday. It was a little bit better, I would say. So it was a kind of a diamond midfield with Bellingham behind Vinicius and Rodrigo, and then 3 more defensive-minded midfielders.
So Vinny played as a false 9?
He played as a kind of a 9 up front with Rodrigo, but with quite freedom to play along the whole front line, basically.
Yeah.
They won it in the 92nd minute with an incredible goal by Fede Valverde, who is one of the most underrated players, I think, 100%. In the whole world. I don't understand. For me, it would be like top of my list if I was any club trying to get
Do you know what I watch him, and I don't feel ashamed in comparing. He reminds me everything about him. His running style, his technique, his power, his aggression, how good of a ball striker he is, the goals that he gets. He's a clone of Steven Gerrard.
Yeah, I mean, I could not agree more, man. I think he's incredible. Yeah. He's incredible.
And that's some high praise, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Don, I'm with you. And save them, because if had they drawn that game, Barca would have been gone for the title.
I'm no manager, and you obviously know Kylian, and you've watched him for many, many years. And I heard you talking about the Champions League performances against Arsenal. I don't know whether I look at Real Madrid and think this is a very easy fix that Ancelotti can't see. And I think it's Kylian off the left.
Yeah.
And I think it's
signing number 9.
Vinny off the right and signing number 9.
Yeah.
I honestly think it's
get rid
easy.
of one of them. Because they can't play Rodrigo, Vinicius.
You'd sell Rodrigo, play Vinny on the right. Play Kylian in his best position off the left.
Yeah.
Buy number 9.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that hard.
I know, but you still have to find that balance in midfield.
True.
That you don't really have. Manchester City produced a terrible first half at Everton on Saturday, Don, but scored led twice for a huge win for them.
A game that I commentated on Saturday that was screaming out for Jeremy Doku. It was screaming out for him, because I wouldn't have a go at Everton, but they played the game like a testimonial Everton, because they've earned the right. Because Everton over the years have relied on emotion and drama, staying up on the last day of the season. They've earned the right to be carefree. I know David Moyes wants to finish the season well, but I get from a player's point of view that the intensity's just dropped off. And it was a testimonial game for an hour. And then they've just done enough. And I don't mean to be mean on Michael Keane, but when he came on for Tarkowski, the game changed, because he got a yellow card early, couldn't then make a tackle. He made a mistake by not making a 50-50 tackle on the edge of the box, then didn't track Nico and Riley for the goal. And then Kovacic's goal was a great strike, which flattered City.
Yeah, definitely.
But I think if you're Man City now, it's look forward to a semi and make sure you finish in the top 5. And they're trying to hit a bit of form, unbeaten in 5. So they're going under the radar in the Premier League slightly. Jules, big weekend of Women's Champions League football.
Yeah, it was the semi-final, Don. We had a really good game, I thought, on Saturday between Arsenal and Lyon. Lyon won. Lyon are so good. They're so strong. They're so physical. They've got pace up front. They've got everything. But Arsenal are still in the tie. And then we had Barcelona against Chelsea, and I didn't see this one coming. Wow. And Barca literally destroyed Chelsea in Catalonia 4-1. I'm not sure how you come back from that. I don't think so. The rest for 3rd, 4th and 5th places in the Premier League is super exciting, Don. We've said that before. So let's have a look into it. 5 teams right now within 2 points. That can change if Forest beat Spurs on Monday night. We're recording this on Monday morning. But Villa, Forest and Chelsea on 47 points.
Yeah.
City on 48. Newcastle on 49.
Yeah.
And as we said, Forest have to play Tottenham on Monday night. Who's your money on? We said already before. Newcastle are in. Villa, we were not sure.
Villa we're not sure. Chelsea we're not sure. Man City are in.
Should make it, you think? Yeah,
they're 5 games unbeaten, so they're coming into a bit of form at the right time. Forest I worry for. As we said, we're recording this on Monday, so if they go and beat Spurs, that changes everything.
Yeah, I agree. Do you think they feel the pressure of that Champions League finish?
I got the impression, I'd done the commentary on the Everton game last weekend, and I got the impression that they looked behind their shoulders when they should have been trying to chase Arsenal down. And they approached that game, in my opinion, like they were looking like Chelsea were going to win, Newcastle were going to win, they played Man United, Villa were going to win. So all the teams behind them, when you try and rack it up, because you do that as a manager, as a professional, you always have a look behind you and go, what if? Instead of looking, the form that they've been in, let's try and reel Arsenal in. So that's put them under pressure, having lost the last 2. So this is why the game against Tottenham is massive. So 3 wins on the spin will put them under pressure.
The thing in that race is that they all play each other. So they will play one of the others. I don't know how you say in English. And I think Chelsea are the only one with 2 games. They play Forest and they play Newcastle.
Yeah.
When you're a player and you
analyse it to the nth degree.
But you tick it and say, this is the one. If we win this one, we are almost in that top 5.
So if you're Newcastle, you'll try and bury the Villa game as quick as possible.
Yeah.
And then they've got Ipswich next.
Yeah.
That's St James's. So the chances are they're going to win that one.
Win. And then you know that if you beat Chelsea, then pretty much done.
And Villa have got Man City this Tuesday.
Yeah.
So I think from a Newcastle point of view, we're wanting a Man City win.
Yeah.
Let them go and try and get 2nd, 3rd or whatever, just to knock Villa down. Chelsea have got really hard.
Yeah, Forest Villa as well, which is big. That
exactly. And Chelsea have got really hard fixtures from Everton next, but after that they've got difficult fixtures. So I think, in truth, the 2 sides that I think are going to miss out might be Forest and Chelsea.
Yeah,
I don't say that with any certainty.
No. I think so too.
That's the
I would say
impression I
that.
get.
Yeah, I agree
Because of the fixtures.
Absolutely, I agree.
Bonkers game. in Lyon at the weekend. What was the story there? What happened?
Saint-Etienne-Lyon, the Rhône derby, as you know, always quite electric, always quite hectic. This one maybe more than ever. Saint-Etienne were in the second division last season, so going back up, this is the first derby they had for a few years now. It started well for Saint-Etienne, scoring first after 10 minutes. Lyon, obviously, on the back of that incredible defeat at Old Trafford on Thursday night.
I mean, that game was done at 4-2.
Oh my God, I felt for them and their fans. I was there, Don. It was incredible. One of the
the players celebrated when Lacazette scored the pen. The players celebrated like it was done.
I know.
And I was working on a game like you. It was done. It was finished.
Yeah.
But man, you got the penalty back within a minute.
Yeah. And then Maguire to score the winner. There were two. I don't know if you saw. I put it on social media, but there's two Saint-Etienne fans at the game last night. One had a number 4 on his shirt, the other one number 5, and one had Merci and the other one Maguire. And you can't do more trolling than that if you're Saint-Etienne fans against Lyon. Saint-Etienne go in front, then they have a player sent off for stamping on Tolisso's ankle. The ref then is asked by VAR to go and review it. You don't know why.
Which is quite ironic because
it's the Davis on Saka, the same one.
But it's quite ironic that Tolisso got sent off for never a second yellow.
I know, exactly. The referee then changes his mind, go from red to yellow. It's exactly the same as Davis on Saka in the Arsenal game. It was a red every day. Changes that. The guy who scored the goal was the one who was sent off. He scored the second goal for Saint-Etienne in the second half.
Oh, my days.
And they ended up winning 2-1. So chaos. And in the middle of all of that done, just before the break, Saint-Etienne fans, because there was no Lyon fans, away fans were not allowed to travel. Saint-Etienne fan threw a cone on the linesman who got hit on the head. Game is suspended for 45 minutes. Almost could have been abandoned because of the stupidity of one of the home fans who are leading in this game, by the way. Yeah. In the end, the second half happened. Saint-Etienne wins it. There will be repercussions, of course. I think there might be dog points and stuff. But what a crazy night in Saint-Etienne. Something else crazy, that Wolves did the double on United.
Well, was it?
On Manchester United. Oh, was it? For the first time in like 45 years or something, Wolves went to Old Trafford and won on Sunday dawn. It's another defeat for United and Ruben Amorim.
15.
But they're safe.
They're going
to stay up.
I posted that on social media last night. Amorim's kept Man United up. What a job he's done.
He won 6 league games in 6 months.
15 losses.
Yeah.
I mean, them
How
and
is that
Tottenham,
even possible?
Them and Tottenham this season have been an embarrassment, haven't they? Tottenham 17 losses, Man United 15 losses. I mean, I half get now, it's at the point of the season now where they've got to throw all their eggs in the Europa basket. They have to.
Yeah.
But they've got to show a little bit more and play for pride.
I know.
Off the back of the win against Lyon, you would have thought that euphoria
100%
would have, give them some energy.
Yeah.
But I had no doubt, and I said it on Thursday night. I said, I can't rely on Man United beating the Wolves at the weekend.
You're right, absolutely.
Looked like a draw all day long, but brilliant Sarabia free kick.
Yeah.
Outstanding goal, and Arna no chance. But they just need a massive rebuild. And with PSR talk, I don't know how they do it unless they win the Europa League.
And you know the point, okay, the priority is the Europa League, we know that. But do you need momentum the weekend before you play the Thursday in the Premier League? Or let's say if they lose every Premier League game now, I mean, does that have an impact on the form in the Europa League or not really? It's two different competitions and your mindset is different.
No, normally, you're right, Jules. Normally, you need momentum and a feel-good factor going into that. But I think with Man United, they've got none.
Yeah,
they've got even if they win the next game, they haven't really got momentum.
Yeah, that's true.
Because the amount of losses out the side and how many sides have gone to Old Trafford and beat them.
Yeah,
that's you can have bad away form, but your home form, if you're Man United or any team in the Premier League, I say top team loosely because they're not a top team anymore. But the amount of losses, the 15 they've had, has just been diabolical, really. Yeah. So, it's one of them. I think even for the staunchest of Man United fans, it's what can you do in the Premier League? Even if you win a couple of games, they're not going to move any positions. So you might as well go and try and beat, beat Bilbao and try and win the Europa League.
Yeah,
but I mean, they'll potentially go into that competition if Spurs beat Bodo.
Imagine that final
on a plastic pitch.
Yeah.
I mean, it might be a Bodo Bilbao final.
Yeah,
both of them might lose at the semis. I mean, Spurs couldn't even beat Tamworth.
I know,
before extra time.
Yeah, that's very true.
So, what happened in Germany? Union Berlin and Stuttgart made history.
Yeah, on Saturday, Dan. It was the latest game for them. And again, that maybe you thought, okay, I'm not going to watch. Maybe Stuttgart, a great team to watch. Super entertaining. Probably too open.
Fantastic manager.
Yeah, great manager. Great young teams. Great young players. Great overall. But with them, you could be in for a treat of a game. And that didn't disappoint. It's only the first half done. They were 4-4 at halftime.
8 goals.
8 goals in those first so the first goal was 5th minute. Italy scored, and then the 8th goal was 45 plus 2, I think, or something like that. So between 5th and 47,
so about 40 minutes.
8 goals in there. It was literally, I mean, there was no defending.
No.
You can just imagine. There were spaces everywhere, one end to the other.
I'm
it was
amazing.
amazing.
I'm going to have to look at the
Yeah, you
dynamic
have
of
to
the
watch.
game in terms of, was it 1-0, 1-1-2, 1-3, 1-4?
If you have 45 minutes of in your day or at some point in the week, just watch the first half. Second half,
it.
no goals. Zero. But the first half, the expected goals combined for the two teams was less than 2, and they scored 8 goals. They were bangers from everywhere. It was amazing.
So the XG less than 2, and there was 8 goals.
8 goals. It tells you, it was amazing. You have to watch between 5th, put it on 5th minute, and all the way to halftime. It was a treat. And the Bundesliga had never seen 8 goals in the first half of any of their games.
Madness.
So absolutely madness. Then on Sunday or Saturday, I can't remember when it was, West Ham could only draw against Southampton 1-1 at the London Stadium. That was not the best thing in the game because it was a poor game. The best thing, I guess, was the Niklas Füllkrug rant after full time.
I like it. I like it. We can't say the words. Oh, my pen's gone. We can't say the words that he said, but fair play to him. Yeah. Fair play to him. He called it out. Said the mentality's poor, paraphrasing. Attitude was poor, paraphrasing. I just don't know what's going on because I commentated on the game the week before when they got beat at Anfield.
Yeah.
And it was so good.
Yeah, no.
Paquetá was amazing. It was so good. I think from the West Ham fans' point of view, just going off the back of what Füllkrug's saying, I think Graham Potter's tried to overcomplicate things because it's a very easy fix.
Yeah.
Play Füllkrug through the middle. He's a number 9. Stop with the Jared Bowen experiment. Many have tried. He's not a centre forward. Play Bowen off the right and play Kudus off the left.
Yeah.
And play Paquetá as a number 10.
Yeah.
It's simple.
I know.
Right?
Agree.
And I think he's frustrated that he's had an injury. It's took him a while to come back. Now he's been back fit. Apart from this game, he's not started too many games.
Yeah. Give the assist for Bowen.
And he's just called it out. He's just said, listen, it's rubbish.
I know.
And I don't mind it because, you know, you have some games in the Premier League where you say, well, the Premier League's a bit unpredictable, but you're playing Southampton.
I know.
Come on, with a goal difference of minus 60.
Relegated
already
as well.
gone.
Does it say something about this squad, Don, that is him who's been there 2 minutes? Really?
Graham Potter.
No, Füllkrug. To say that when maybe the leaders didn't say anything, really. I haven't heard Bowen saying that. I haven't heard...
But he's probably not a leader. He's probably not vocal.
You know, like, I don't know, even a Sucha. I don't know who really the leaders are. Even a Paquetá. I don't know who else.
That may be part of the problem, Jules. A great point that you bring up. Who is actually, in terms of Ødegaard's a playing leader, isn't he?
Yeah.
But West Ham have got plenty playing leaders like Paquetá and like Bowen and like Kudus. But who's verbal?
Yeah.
Who's the one that's dragging them around the training ground to say, listen, that's not acceptable.
Yeah.
The way we walked around training. That's not acceptable that we can't raise a game.
switched off in a game like this.
And then it's not acceptable how you can turn it on at Anfield, even though you might say Liverpool dropped down a gear, whatever. But then you put in that performance a few days later against Southampton. So actually, that's a fascinating point that you raise. Who's the verbal leaders at West Ham? And my guess is, Jules, there ain't many.
Not many, Or Füllkrug now, for sure.
Yeah, there ain't many. Where are we next, Jules? Sorry.
We're at 16. Inter and Napoli.
Okay. Jules, Napoli-Inter, level on points after the last game of the season. Could it happen?
Well, that's the good question, Don. So currently they are level because
71 each.
Scott McTominay won it again for Napoli.
McSauce is at it again.
What a season he's having.
2 man of the matches in a row.
Incredible. They won at Monza on Saturday. And then on Sunday, what happened? Inter go to Bologna, which is a tricky game. Don't play well. No Marcus Thuram was injured. Inter lose to Bologna. Lovely goal by Orsolini. Brilliant. Who's a hell of a player.
What a volley.
I know, coming off the bench as well. Great kind of scissor kick. And now we have Inter and Napoli on 71 points.
Yep.
So great title race in Italy. Wonderful. I don't know who's your money on right now. Who would you say?
Well, it was Inter, and I still think they've got the best squad.
They have, I
But
agree.
I mean, Antonio Conte's proven with the players that he scored. When you look player for player, squad for squad, Inter should be a million points clear.
Yeah, absolutely.
Shows you how good of a job Conte's done to have them in a race.
And Inter has the 2 semi-final Champions League. Semi-final of the Champions League.
So this doesn't go on goal difference. This goes on a head-to-head. They drew both games 1-1.
Yeah, and now, so if they level on points after the last week of the season, it will be a final. I know, which is something that Italy have had like really long time ago, start of the 20th century. If there were 2 teams level on point at the end of the season, they would face in the in a
playoff.
playoff final.
Two-legged playoff, maybe?
No, so one-legged at the time. It would be the team with the highest goal difference that will host.
Right.
So currently Inter have a way better goal difference than Napoli.
About 15, 16
so it will be
goals,
at San Siro if it stays like this. You would have 90 minutes, no extra time, straight to pens if after 90 minutes you are drawing.
Wow.
Which I think would make it super exciting. Maybe a little bit electric.
I think it should happen more.
I know you. I think every league should do that, right?
Every league should do it, right? Yeah.
Because imagine the season where City, obviously the Aguero goal.
Yeah.
That's on goal difference. They win that.
Exactly.
Imagine if we had a City United playoff final for the title. Oh my God!
Guys, stop it, Jules.
That would have been amazing.
Let's make it happen.
I know. I want Napoli and Inter drawing being level on point at the end of the season.
Because I think this happened in 2023 when
for relegation. Yeah, they have the same for relegation.
Yeah,
exactly.
I believe that was over 2 legs. I might be wrong.
I think so too. I think
we should start a campaign.
I know.
All across Europe.
I know. All the leagues.
Playoffs.
No goal difference or no head-to-heads, nothing like that.
Money,
just boom.
Attendances, money to charity.
I know. Yeah, perfect.
Everyone's a winner.
I love that, man.
Let's make it happen.
I love that. Well, we stay in Serie A, Don, because you did the commentary last night on Sunday night. Great commentary of the Atalanta-Milan game with a huge win for La Dea. And so what did you make of the game first? And then there's a couple of players that we need to talk about.
Yeah, so this was at San Siro. So
yeah, San Siro, sorry.
Yeah, that's fine. So both teams coming off the back of a win. Conceição, Milan's changed the system, which is controversial. So the last couple of games, they won against Udinese the week before, 4-0, cruised the game, but he went to 3 at the back.
Yeah.
I'm guessing the reason why he's gone 3 at the back is to try and get the best out of Leao.
Yeah, because he never played 3 at the back before Porto.
No, many have tried. Nice. Pioli tried it, obviously not 3 at the back, but trying to get the best out of Rafa Leao. He's a player that infuriates me because I love him so much because of the talent, but he doesn't work hard enough.
Yeah.
So Fonseca tried it, different system, not different system, I say this very loosely, but trying to get the best.
Yeah.
This way, Conceição was trying to play 3 at the back, trying to play Theo Hernandez as a left wing back, a free role for Rafa Leao.
And also mirroring what Atalanta
exactly.
System
So the game plan was both teams playing exactly the same system. So it was never going to lend itself to a 4-0 or a 4-3.
Yeah.
It was always going to be man for man. And Atalanta, they were coming off the back of a win who I think had lost 3 games before that. Gasperini just showed how much of a genius he was because the game was drifting. Then he made changes. Bellanova was by far my best player.
I love him
again, and what a player. And he played as a right-sided centre-back, but then he pushed him as a right wing-back. He got the assist for Edison's goal. So it was a cagey sort of game, but a great game to watch because it was fascinating because of the tactics. But Milan now have left themselves scrambling for any sort of European football, which is Champions League's not going to happen, but they've got to try and finish in a conference place.
Yeah,
Conceição
is going to go,
so he's not going to stay. So off the back of sacking Fonseca, Conceição's going to go. So that's another hole to try and
to fill
the top manager. So it probably underestimates the job that Pioli done. In winning trophies there, but Milan just look a shadow. And many Milan fans are saying this is one of the worst Milan squads of all time.
Yeah, I agree.
So great win for Atalanta.
And you talk about Leao, but Joao Felix also.
And Pulisic.
Pulisic at least has been good for last season.
His numbers have been good, but how do you play with 3 of them in the same team? You can't.
Probably can't. But what do you do with Joao Felix? I mean, he's going to go back to Chelsea.
Go back to Chelsea.
Milan. What are Chelsea going to do with him? What a waste of a talent.
I really feel for him. It's a fascinating discussion point because you can go round the houses and go round in circle when you talk Joao Felix. In my opinion, you should never have went to Atletico Madrid to play under Simeone. A more forward-thinking manager would have suited his style, would have suited his career. But then when you look at the player and say, well, what actually has he done? He's never had more than 10 goals in his career in one season. He's never had more than 10 assists in one season. So you can blame the managers as much as you want, but the player's got to do more.
So he then is going to go back. For sure.
So he then is going to go back to Chelsea, who don't want him. So they're going to have to potentially sell him to someone in Europe or Saudi. Milan have got a problem with Leao, so they're going to be hoping that a Saudi team comes in to play. I don't know, 60, 70, 80 million quid for him, so they can try and rebuild. But with Chukwueze there, talented player, and Pulisic, talented player, Leao,
Tammy,
Felix, the squad sort of on paper is something there for a manager to work with. But my God, many have tried over the last 2 or 3 years and they're not getting the job done. So I put this all down to the player.
I can hear you.
They've got to start doing a lot more, in my opinion. So it's a great shame. Talking Atletico Madrid, they're definitely out of the title race gone, finished?
Well, they lost to Las Palmas on Sunday, 1-0. I mean, to lose to Las Palmas, Oli McBurney, Las Palmas, by the way, who had been really fighting against relegation for most of the season, it's pretty bad. The fact is, so now they're 10 points behind Barcelona, so they can't win the title. They're 6 points behind Real Madrid, and they just haven't been good enough lately. Since that heartbreak, and I know it's heartbreaking to be knocked out by Real Madrid on penalties in the Champions League. Last 16 with the Julien Laurens penalty, all the controversy, etc.
So is that a case of them rebuilding or keeping the likes of Julian Alvarez, who've been linked with Liverpool, by the way?
Yeah, I mean, they bought him for 80 million, so whoever wants to buy him
100
will have to pay, over 100. So I don't know. I think they want to keep Griezmann, for example, who's been the shadow of himself for the last 2 months after being so great for most of the first part of the season. I think they're happy with their squad. I think it's a good squad. I think it's a Simeone squad, which is the most important here. He's got the players to fit his philosophy and everything. There's just, I think that game against Real Madrid just knocked something out of them, really. And they haven't been the same since, really. And it's a real shame because they will finish probably 10, 12, 15 points behind Barcelona. And that's not the gap they should have been.
No,
it
doesn't feel that way, does it?
Exactly. They're much closer. And maybe that's on Simeone to not have him find the resources after that, because they lost that game and then they lost against, I think, Barcelona in the league or something like that. And that finished them, really. So, I don't know, it's a shame, but just not good enough right now. Bayern won easily at Heidenheim and are 8 points clear at the top of the Bundesliga because Leverkusen could not beat St. Pauli down. But more than that, the title race is gone now. Bayern is Bayern to be. It will be Harry Kane's first trophy.
Good on him.
Amazing, good on him. More importantly, he scored again at the weekend, making it 60 goals in 60 Bundesliga games.
Prolific.
Just for you to have an idea, Haaland scored 60 in 65 games in the Bundesliga.
Prolific, isn't he? And he's always been that way. I mean, there was no danger he was going to go there and score goals. I mean, 60 and 60 is an unbelievable record.
Incredible.
I mean, honestly, you go back to when I played, 1 and 2 was the number.
Yeah,
and then
absolutely.
Messi and Ronaldo ripped that up, and Lewandowski and the likes of Haaland and now Harry Kane are getting a goal a game. It's nuts. So I'm glad that he's gone there. I'm glad that he's going to go and win a title. Vincent Kompany deserves a lot of credit at the same time. So the job that they've done is phenomenal. I hope he stays. Another player that's been linked with Liverpool coming back to the Premier League, but I hope Harry Kane stays for more titles, tries to win a Champions League. I think he deserves it because he's character on and off the pitch is just ultra reliable.
And you know what's amazing is he's not as fit as he used to be. I mean, he's going to be 32 years old anyway.
But he's never been like fit.
But
as in like, like running around doing like 13k a game. It's not his game.
Physically. No, it's true. Yeah. But I forgot. Because you never lose that. I think I told you this story, but in the World Cup in Qatar, I played a football game with Ali McCoist, who was in the other team.
Yeah.
And there was a few ex-pros. It was a lovely, lovely afternoon, lovely game. And Ali is 61, 62 years old, something like that, or it was at the time. He might be a bit older now. And you should have seen him. And the finishing.
So Roy Keane never took him out, or was he on the same side?
On the same team. He was with Roy.
So he still should have took
Gary
him out.
Neville was in their team.
Who's the destroyer in your team? Can you remember?
I had Karen Carney, I think, in my team who was amazing.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
Karen Carney should have took. I'm gonna have a word with Kaz. She should have took Ali out.
Yeah, but every finish done
crisp.
One time. Oh my God! Top corner, bottom corner. Top corner, bottom corner.
Isn't it amazing to see?
And he would never lose that. Of course, he can't run like he used to.
But isn't it amazing for you to play with it and see it firsthand?
Yeah, amazing.
And then you go, imagine taking 40 years of him.
Yeah, and I think Harry Kane at 60 or 61 or 62 or 65, whatever Ali is now, I expect him to be the same.
So the moral of the story is, when Harry Kane's working on TV with you, in 20 years' time, he'll still be scoring goals.
I'll tell you that in 20 years' time.
Let's talk Ranieri. What a job he's done. Uncle Claudio, unbeaten in 17. From where they were, Jules, they're sniffing a Champions League spot.
Absolutely, Don. They're 3 points behind Bologna in fourth.
Yep.
They've been unbeaten, we said, since December 15th in the league. They lost in the Europa League. But But Claudio doing an incredible job. When you think where they were when he took over after that disastrous start of the season, for him to not just change the dynamic, everything, but just change the whole mindset and everything.
And the style.
And the
Juric was so boring and pedestrian.
God. I mean, I would have kept De Rossi, I think, for a bit longer, to be fair. That was a mistake. Juric was definitely the wrong appointment. We talked about Van Nistelrooy before.
But Ranieri gets it, doesn't he? He's been a Romanista.
Yeah,
He's
absolutely. Third stint or fourth stint
third time
in there.
Gets the club, the fans love him.
If he gets them into the top 4, because the top 5 will be for England and for Spain. We know that for sure. So it would have to be top 4 in Italy. And they have a few teams, obviously. Juventus still in the mix. Bologna, we said. Fiorentina still in the mix. Lazio still in the mix. Fiorentina and Lazio were supposed to play today on Easter Monday.
Yeah, so the top 3 are more or less guaranteed.
Yeah, top 3
Atalanta will make it.
Yeah, Atalanta will make it.
Napoli and Inter.
There won't be any games today on Easter Monday because the Pope, obviously Pope Francis, passed away this morning. Really sad news everywhere, but especially in Italy, of course. So Roma and Claudio will have to wait a little bit to see what Fiorentina and Juventus do this weekend. But what an incredible... It would be one of the achievements of not just this season in Europe, but of the last few years if Ranieri returns this
it would be close to manager of the season, wouldn't it?
I agree.
Very, very close.
Absolutely. Incredible, Claudio.